I've now fitted but not connected the indicators. These are in a bit of a state. They have had a trip on the wire wheel to get rid of all the loose and flaky corrosion, and then buffed up as best as I could on the polishing wheel. They're still pretty rough, but they'll do. This is a 47-year-old bike after all. If they get annoying, I will see if I can get some reproduction ones. But to buy new old stock of these, they're about 25 quid each, and I don't want to pump 100 quid into this before I know it's good and roadworthy. This morning's job is to see how we get on fitting the Aftermarket rear fender. This one came from reume. It was about 47 quid or something. Might not have been that much, 40 something. It's not the best quality item on the planet. This is I ended up ordering two of these. Well, not ordering two, they sent me two, because the first one, which is this one, the one we're going to go with, the front leading forks, plugs, pegs that go into the frame are bent, so I contacted them and they very kindly sent me a second one, but the second one was worse than the first one. These have to be in alignment. I don't know if you can tell even from here, but even on this one they're slightly out of alignment, but the second one was so far out it looks like it was jigged by a one-eyed man. It was terrible, and because it bolts into the frame either side and there's a narrow margin of clearance, there was no way that the other one would work. I mean, even things like this were pissed. It was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how nobody in the warehouse even noticed it was that far out of true is beyond me. So these I think are made in Thailand, and I don't think they're very good quality, but they're better than the one that I've got with the bike, which is rusty. I won't turn it over just yet. Painted black, and someone's been over it with a sander, so all the chrome's scratched up. I mean, worst case scenario, I suppose I could strip the paint back and repaint it, but I wanted a chrome finish on this, so I ended up purchasing Aftermarket front and rear guards for it. Time to fit the rubber bushings on the rear here, and I can't for the life of me remember which way around they go, but I suspect the thicker part of the bush is on the inside and the thinner on the outside. I checked part diagrams, they don't seem to show up anywhere on the part diagrams, like an omission. Both rubbers in place. Now it's time to see how badly or how well the rear guard lines up. There are two metal bushings that go into these rubbers. The two forks at the front push into the rubbers in the back of the frame. Nice and simple. And then these holes are there to take screws or bolts. And get the screws started. Should give me a little bit of wiggle room there. Now already I can see that the mounts are not equally spaced, so I may well have a problem here. Now it's about this point I start ranting about Aftermarket parts, but I literally have no other option at this point. Yeah, this is way out. Way out. Hopefully there's enough give in the rubber to allow me to make this work. We've got it started. Right, let's see how much jigging we can do. So here's the issue. We've got a bolt here and a bolt here, and they go into welded in nuts on this frame. But if these side pieces aren't square, then you have an alignment mismatch. So this one's in where we want it, this one is out, it's slightly rearward, and you can almost see that in the way these have been jigged, or not jigged probably, and this one is slightly rearward of this one. So it's given us this discrepancy where this bush isn't liking the fact that it has to come off centre on the rubber. I'm hoping there's enough give in both of these that if I gently tighten this one up, it'll kind of compress the rubber and allow it to sit in there, but it's less than ideal. Another thing of note is that the prongs at the front on the original mudguard, they butt right up, so this gap doesn't exist, whereas on this one it does. So again, another, you know, moan I suppose, and I just hope that this doesn't interfere with the rear tyre. If it does, we're in the poo, and I've got no way of testing that because obviously I don't have the wheels back yet. The bush took up the discrepancy. It's not ideal, but at least it was just close enough to allow it to do that. This one went in perfectly without any issues whatsoever. So at least we know that it fits in there. My big concern at the moment really regards whether there's enough clearance for the rear wheel without rubbing or hitting the fender at the rear there, the mud guard at the rear there. Another discrepancy, but more forgivable, is the number plate mounting holes are in a different place on the aftermarket one, and the reason being is I think this is designed to fit many different models, mostly the later ones. So on the original we've got a mounting hole at the bottom like this one, and two mounting holes which are about here, whereas this has the mounting holes at high up here. Another obvious difference is the length of the cabling guide. This one is quite long on this because it takes the cables right down to the number plate holder, whereas this one stops here. Presumably the modern or more modern number plate holders finish here. It's that's a cosmetic issue for later. Just going to retrieve the number plate holder. I'm going to loosely bolt it into place. Okay, I'm going to find some reference points to try and square that up as best I can. I don't know quite how scientific this is, but I've got a piece of wire wrapped around the main nut on the steering, and with my eye I'm following the centre weld of the frame and drawing it up to the top of the number plate guard, and that is as close to vertical as I can get it. I'm going to start with a pilot hole. Okay, I don't know if I'm chancing my arm here, but I'm jumping straight up to 6.5 millimeters. I don't want to work it up too incrementally because being sheet, thin metal, it's likely to grab, so this is a brand new drill bit as well. That's what I hate about sheet metal. A nice, not round hole. Just using a round file just to round that hole out a bit. The problem with I found drilling into sheet metal with HSS drill bits is that they tend to make like a hexagonal hole rather than a round hole. I have attached the rear indicator stubs. This one has the proper screw. This one is missing the screw, so it's got a bolt in temporarily at the moment, but I have got them on order. Now I think it would have been easier to have attached the indicators to their stalks and then fed the wire up at an angle before screwing the stalk down, but you learn. If it's a new lens, a reproduction lens to this particular one, as it was missing. It was only a couple of quid. I think it came from Wiimoto. So I've got the cables running up under the frame through this cable guide, and then we've got the indicator cables coming to the left and to the right, and then we have, this is a spare earth which I think goes at the tail end, but it's just hooked on there for safety so I don't lose it. We've got the three main cables coming back to the rear light and then through out into the rear light back of the housing. This is the bit I'm going to have issues with, so I need to have a workaround, whether it's just something simple like black insulation, heat shrink, or whether it's a piece of tubing, maybe some stainless steel tubing to cover those over. That's something to think about at a later date. And of course we've got the indicators fitted. So the back end is starting to look like it's coming together. Not too shabby, despite the aftermarket rear fender's best effort. It looks okay. Here we have the front mudguard. As you can see, the previous owner did a fantastic paint job on it. Hardly a brush mark in there. But it is, as it stands, pretty unusable. It is incredibly rusty on the inside, although very solidly built. But the outside, the chrome has had it. It is shot away. I can see why someone tried to paint it. So the options I had was to paint this piece, which may still happen. If I do that, it's got to be something that complements the bike. But the second thing I ever bought for this bike cropped up on, it was like Alibaba or one of those Chinese websites, and I purchased a brand new aftermarket reproduction front mudguard, which looks shiny, looks amazing. It does fit, but it is about half the weight of the original one. I think it's made out of stainless, I'm not sure, but it's a very thin gauge, and it's slightly shorter as well. The original mudguard comes down another couple of inches front and back. Not something that really bothers me. The only concern I really have with it is the amount of clearance I have. These scalloped areas here to allow these fork tubes to ride past the mudguard, and it's very close. In fact, I had to sort of bash the side of this to get it to sit straight in the first place. So until I get some weight on the bike, I don't actually know how much clearance I'm going to have on this mudguard. Hopefully just enough. It's nice and shiny, I'll give it that. But anyway, this is just a dry fit to see if it actually went on there. It's going to have to come off. Just for fun, I loosely stuck the tank on. It's not been finished painting yet. There's still white details that need to go on the bottom half of the tank, and obviously the badges. I've loosely balanced the seat on, but it's starting to look like a motorbike, albeit a very small one. And it gives you a general idea of what the finish of the bike is going to be like and what it's going to look like with the new rims when they eventually arrive. That should set it off really nicely. In fact, I have to be honest, I know it's only a little 125, but I'm quite excited about riding this for the first time. I think she's going to be fun. Compared to what they were, they look almost brand new, and they're the original rubbers too. Got a couple of new grips for the bike. Right, I am pretty much sure that's as far as I can go until a few things arrive. Obviously the wheels, which I've mentioned several times, but the rubber bushings for the top of the suspension, when they come I can button all that up properly and get it secured. Yeah, I think that is it. I'm waiting for some fine line tape so I can finish off the bottom of the tank. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a little job here and there that I pick up on, but until that occurs. That's as far as we're going.